Welcome into Between the Lines. Myself, Jake, and Myron are about to do our top 6 for the college football playoffs. We discussed it. We looked it over. And it's kind of the same thing as the AP top 25. But we are just kind of discuss why we think they're right and why do you think that tomorrow night the college football top 6 will look like this. Myron, first off, I got a haircut.
You did. You're bald now. No, I like it.
The
flow is gone.
The flow is gone. The curliness is gone. It's just now a little bit fade on the sides and back, and then, a little bit of hair on the top.
I'm glad you didn't do a bowl cut because I would have just probably Michael Jordan you the rest of the day. The bald head man from Chicago. I would just grab your head, Luis.
Oh, man. Yeah, we were discussing haircuts last week, and that one came up. But, yeah, we're going to get into our top 6 here. And just kind of go over and discuss it a little bit.
Let me start.
You want to start?
Yeah. So,
do you want to do it from 6 to 1, or do you just want to go into the
No, we might as well just start. We already know who's number one. This team has dominated all year. They look beatable at times, especially when they play Kentucky. I thought they were going to lose, but this Georgia team is our number one ranking here, and I think they're going to continue to dominate. I do think this team is very beatable, but anybody can be beat any given Saturday, Friday, or Sunday, whatever day that they want to play these games anymore. But that's our number one team in Division I.
Yeah, I think Georgia is kind of the clear-cut favorite. They've been the number one team since the week 1 after beating Oregon. They have just dominated teams. The teams that they're supposed to dominate, they have dominated. The teams that you thought maybe would give them trouble, they've dominated. They dominated Tennessee. They dominated Oregon. They dominated Florida. And now we look to see what they will do against LSU, who, just lost to Texas A&M, but won that side of the SEC. So they get to move on to the SEC championship game. So, for this SEC championship game, I think it's not really a test for Georgia, I would say. It's just a preparation for them to get into that college football playoff. Yeah. It's just a preparation of, all right, we got to face a ranked opponent. They're going to face a good ranked opponent, I would say. Someone that has, gone toe-to-toe with a lot of good opponents so far. I mean, they came away with a nice victory against Alabama, so that they're a very good team. They won't be in the top 6 after losing to Texas A&M, but they are still one of the, they're still one of those teams that Georgia still just needs to not overlook.
Yes. I mean, Alabama overlooked them and lost. So now, this will throw a monkey wrench into everything if Georgia loses to LSU this week.
They would get in.
Georgia would get in at number 4. They wouldn't be top 3. No. They will fall to 4. LSU would jump to maybe 5.
LSU would be one of the first 2 out, yes. But they would not jump in because they have 3 losses.
If that happens,
it would be crazy. It would be absolutely ridiculous. You can't. I mean, with the way the college football season has gone, you just can't not think of that and not say that can't happen. Like before, I feel like a lot of number one teams would be like, that can't happen.
Right.
Like they're gonna win. It's gonna be easy. Right. For this one, it's like the way the college football season's gone. Literally anything is possible.
Anything is possible. And this goes in the test to our next team on this list, our number 2 team. They embarrassed the team that was ranked in this spot ahead of them last week. Michigan dominated Ohio State. What was the score? 45-23.
Yeah, 45-23.
An embarrassment for Ohio State. They also lost. They lost 2 recruits that same day after losing that game. Which is tough. I mean, it happens. You lose recruits here and there, but this Michigan team, I think they've been battle tested a little bit all year. I'm a U of I fan here, and this is a little biased, but they should have lost to U of I heading into this Ohio State game. But
that would have screwed everything up.
This would have screwed everything up. But in reality, we all know that game was rigged, and we all seen it on the camera. It was all on camera.
No comment.
I'm gonna call it out on it.
No comment.
But that's just because I'm a U of I fan, so I'm a little bit biased there. But Michigan, I mean, they really haven't been tested, and they've beat teams who they were supposed to beat. They blew teams out they were supposed to blow out, like you've been saying. And you wouldn't have projected a 45-23 Ohio State losing to Michigan like this. You would assume this would have been a 21-20 game.
Ohio State, I believe, was a favored like 6.5 points, like 6.5 points, I think it was, or something like that. They were favored by a good amount, almost a touchdown going into this game. And they talked all year long about Michigan. They faced Colorado State, Hawaii, UConn, right? Like that's who they've been facing in the beginning of the season, and everyone was like, oh, this team's facing a bunch of bums. Like there's no reason for them not to be beating them almost by 50 points every game. And everyone kind of overlooked them just a little bit going into this Ohio State game, because the only other opponent that they were really faced that really would maybe give them trouble was Penn State and then Illinois.
And Penn State, they blew them out 41-17.
They had 400 and maybe 90 something rushing yards. Right, like they absolutely blew this team out of the water, and then they get to Illinois, almost lose that game. They lose their star player during that game. They, yes, Myron says should have, but they almost lose that game. And so going into this Ohio State game, I think everyone kind of realized that it was going to be Georgia, Ohio State.
Michigan falls out of
and
the
then
top
Michigan
five,
falls out of the top
4,
right? And Michigan proved it wrong. All year we've been saying Ohio State was the best offense in college football, that no one could touch them.
Terrible.
You have a wide receiver that has caught over 1,000 yards.
I don't think he's dropped the ball.
And hasn't dropped the ball. Like, that's insane, right? And that's insane. But, again, anybody, like you said earlier, anybody can be beaten on any given day. And Michigan proved to themselves they're here to stay, and they're here for the college football playoff. All they have to do now is go manhandle Purdue in the Big Ten championship game.
Which I think they're going to do that. But I also think they made a very great decision early on in the season, deciding to make J.J. McCarthy their starting quarterback.
A lot of people don't like J.J. McCarthy.
Man, he was a terror in high school, and he's just proven it this week.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. A lot of people hated on J.J. McCarthy throughout the entirety of the year. They went to him after who was it?
That guy's in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah, he's in the transfer portal. Can't think of his name. I'll be looking for his name. But they were, thought that, why would you give him the starter when this dude led you to a Big Ten championship game? Cade
McMahon?
Yeah, I think it was Cade McNamara.
Yeah, he did just go into the
transfer
portal.
And so he just transferred. He's in the transfer portal now. But he brought them to a Big Ten championship, brought them to the college football playoff. And then you go with J.J. McCarthy over this guy. And so a lot of people were very confused. A lot of people were there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people thought that Michigan just was frauds or didn't deserve to be here. They proved it. They're here. They're a number 2 team.
Right.
And they have a real good shot. They do. They have a real good shot. As long as they just out physical, a team, whoever they will face in the college football playoff, they will be perfectly fine. They will be absolutely perfectly fine. And they could compete with Georgia, I think. I think they really can compete with Georgia if they get in the college football playoff. Again,
if they have the same game they had against Ohio State, Georgia's going to be in for a long day.
I mean, that offensive line is going to have a real tough test against Georgia's defensive line.
They're outstanding.
But Michigan's offensive line, I feel like after playing Ohio State,
is ready.
I think is ready for it. I think
because Ohio State has a good defensive line too.
Good defensive line, good pass rush, good run stuff, and they controlled the game the entire time. And so that's why I think that Michigan has a really good shot at this. Our number 3 team for the college football playoff is TCU. They're undefeated still. There's no reason not to put them in the top 3.
Yeah.
We'll almost
see how their season ends, though.
Yeah, we'll see how their season ends. They do face Kansas State,
who's ranked 13? Yes, they're ranked number 13, and they've played them already this year. But I mean, any team can win or lose on a Saturday.
They've already beat the Kansas State earlier this year, only by 10 points, 38-28. but I still think these are one of the rare occasions that a lot of teams can beat the same team again in the same year.
Yes.
I think this is easily there. Their offense, Max Duggan, Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson's going to be a first-round draft pick this year for wide receiver. You have that kind of dynamic duo there along with some other wide receivers that are some dudes, I would say, some dudes. And they were going to get it done. And I do think that they're going to easily punch their ticket into the college football playoff. I think that this team is going to be that number 3 team as of right now. Michigan, if they have been, stumbling over Purdue, which we don't see that happening after Ohio State. But if Georgia stumbles over LSU, as of right now, we don't see that happening just because those two teams, like we said earlier, are so good and so dominant. We'll go with TCU at 3. I think that's just a simple, fair conclusion, and I think they can easily make it in, right? Mm-hmm.
But this next team we have on this list, I think, has a least, not to say a better chance, a better chance to make it, but I feel like they're not going to here. I think they're going to get. I do. I think this next team is going to get upset.
Okay,
this number 14 we have on this list.
Number 4, which is
USC,
which is going to be a little bit.
They've already lost to this team.
I know. This is one of those, like I just said, the rare occasions of beating a team twice. I said TCU can do it. I don't think Utah can.
I think Utah can upset USC.
Caleb Williams looks fantastic. He's going to finish most likely probably in the top 5 Heisman voting. Jordan Addison is going to be a first-round draft pick this year in the wide receiver position. Travis Dye hasn't looked, fantastic as a running back, as a real true rusher. This is a passing offense, the Pac-12. They're going to be passing a little bit more.
Right.
But I don't see the way that Caleb Williams was playing against Notre Dame. I know their defense gives up a lot of points, but I don't feel like, I feel like the last game, the what have you done for me lately saying, when you look at them versus Notre Dame, that team looked like a Pac-12 championship team. That team looked different than when they faced. Yeah, different when they from facing against Utah.
I mean, yes, you are right. What have you done lately? But if we look at it again, 27 points, 45, 17, 35, 37.
They average about
43, 14, 25, 45. These scores,
they average about 26 and 26.3 points per game for their opponents. They give up.
That's still, them numbers are skewed, especially with early in the season when they were holding teams. But recently, they've been giving up.
But their offense is 42.5.
But they have to score 42 points to win the game.
I think they can. I do. I think that they can do that. I think that when it comes to Utah, this team, again, almost 40 points a game.
They're holding teams to 20 points. So someone's defense is going to crack here. Either it's going to be a shootout again.
I think it's going to be Utah. It may be a shootout again, but I think when it comes down to later in the game, I think the way that they played against Notre Dame, the way that this offense kind of plays, the momentum that they can get, I think for USC, they can do it. They're going to be at home too. I know they're at home. No, they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be at home. I think this might be a neutral site game. Don't know for sure where this game will be played at, whether it be at. I think it's going to be neutral site. I think because all championship games, I believe, are neutral site sort of things. Again, still, either way, doesn't matter. USC with that momentum, I think that they are going to get it done. I think Caleb Williams is going to get it done. I think that they're going to not destroy Utah. I do think you're right with the shootout sort of type talking about it. I think shootout's going to be it. I don't think it's going to be as high as 43, 42. We might see 30 something. But I think the defense for USC is going to come up with a huge stop at the end of the game, and Utah is going to go down. USC is going to punch their ticket into the college football playoff, which is sad because, at least for me, I had Ohio State winning it all this year. But I just don't see this team losing to Utah. I hope I'm wrong. for the fact that my prediction earlier in the year, I hope I'm wrong. But Ohio State, I don't see them jumping anybody. I don't think USC loses this. If they happen to lose,
Ohio
good.
State jumps back into the top 4.
I know you have them jumping back in the top 4 because of USC's loss.
That's if USC lost. But I think TCU can lose too.
I think TCU might have a better chance of losing just because of the way Kansas State has played recently. But I think when it comes down to it, USC just won't get it done.
No, I don't know.
I mean,
we'll know.
I think they will get it done. I think for you,
we'll know Friday night,
which is so crazy. They play on Friday,
and everybody else in the country is going to be watching that game.
And everybody, when we talk about Ohio State, it's going to be the most watched game in Columbus.
Oh yes, because that's going to tell them if they're going to make the playoffs or not, and especially with Ohio State not playing this weekend because of them losing to Michigan, they didn't make into the Big Ten championship. I think if you're Ohio State, you're preying on their downfall, but the chances of that happening are slim to none. But I think it can happen. I think 2 out of the top 4 teams loses this weekend, but that's a bold statement.
That is a bold statement.
It looks out for our number 5 team.
It does. Number 5, Ohio State Buckeyes, and number 6 we have Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama, I think we have 6 just because they've lost twice. It's Bama.
It's Bama.
But
listen,
they've
you
lost
give
twice.
Bama a chance to get in the top 4. Everybody in the top 4 are gonna hate you because
Everybody.
Bama is not a team that's gonna lose 3 times in 1 year.
No,
They lost twice because Georgia just beat them. Did they lose to Georgia or was it Tennessee they lost to?
They lost to Tennessee.
Tennessee was just playing out of their mind.
Yeah,
they played Georgia and just was.
Malik Hooker, I think, had
he tore his ACL. He's done, but
they had 400 yards passing that game.
He embarrassed them. Yes,
absolutely embarrassed them. And then they went on to face LSU, where they got
lucky. LSU got lucky that they won this game.
You think they got? I
think LSU got lucky. You just caught Bama on a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Bama barely lost to Tennessee, 52-49, and then they come back and barely lose to LSU, 32-31.
So they were both in those games. It's just
Nick Saban took away all the Hellcats and Trackhawks, but that's a different story. I think this team can still creep its way into the top 4 if 2 of the 4 teams lose.
I think the best what-if scenario for them would be if TCU loses to Kansas State. They're going to be done. They're going to be out of it. TCU out of it.
USC
if they lose,
out of it if they lose to Utah.
USC out of it if they lose. I think what people would be mad at again, and this is going back to that, going to that 2014, Ohio State barely made it in over TCU, and a lot of people thought that TCU was supposed to make it in. Mm-hmm. Would it be the same thing? But now it's a different argument. Ohio State didn't make the Big Ten championship game. Clemson, apologies. They got absolutely destroyed. TCU made it to their championship game.
It would be Oregon that
they
beat in 2014?
I'm talking about going into that. Going into the college football playoff. It was the first ranking. Ohio State didn't. Ohio State made it in over a team that looked better, played a little bit better, had a better offense that year that people were saying. But again, it would be difficult.
Yeah,
for that.
I agree with you.
For that, for TCU to kind of swallow again, to have Ohio State jump them in a ranking, and especially this year, they don't make the Big Ten championship game this year.
They have to sit and wait.
Who would you choose? If TCU loses, they made their championship game.
But if they lose,
Ohio State didn't.
They lose it. So they basically both are losers here. So what loser do you want to put in there? What loser is more entertaining? What loser is going to get you more views?
But we're not off at entertaining. Who's the better team?
Ohio State is going to. If you was to put them up in a head-to-head competition, Ohio State would blow those dudes out by 45 points. Let's sit here and be honest here. And if you can sit here and you disagree with me, call me at 630. No, you cannot. But if you sit here and disagree with me, put it in the comments because you're crazy. If you think TCU would be able to compete with Ohio State. I know what you just watched versus Michigan may prove otherwise, but Ohio State is still a very talented football team.
I think you're right. I think you don't think top 4 stays. I potentially think the top 4 stays. I think it's going to be Georgia. We'll discuss it next week, but I think Georgia, Ohio State, or Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and then USC. And then Ohio State's just looking out. I mean, they choked. They choked it. All they had to do was beat Michigan, and then they ended up choking it. But yeah, I think that would have been it. I hope, for my prediction earlier this year, I hope Ohio State gets in with a USC loss or a TCU loss, because even if it's a USC loss, Ohio State being at 4, facing Georgia, I wanted that game since the moment the season started.
Respect.
Because they were the top 2 teams for the longest time. Ohio State was the best offense in college football for the longest time, and Georgia had the best defense in college football. Mm-hmm. Best offense versus best defense, 1 versus 4. Winner of the national championship game would be insane. Would be amazing. You would love that to be the national championship game, but it just won't happen.
It won't.
It won't happen. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That's our top 6 there. Let us know what we got wrong in the comments. Let us know what we got right in the comments. Or who do you think is going to jump in? Who's going to lose? Because he thinks Ohio State's going to jump in with a USC loss.
It's possible.
It's possible. I hope that Ohio State gets in, but I don't see it happen. I think all 4 teams can easily win their respective championship. And I hope that the
committee gets it right.
Committee gets it right, and I hope the 12-team playoff comes sooner than normal. So
I can't wait for that. 12 teams would be outstanding.
Insane. We'll be there in a couple of years. But yeah, let us know.
That's a whole different subject.
That's a whole different subject. Trying to discuss why. Let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. Until next time, please subscribe, hit the like button, comment, do all the things. And Myron,
it's a wrap.